and development, your one-stop shop to a sultry Irish voice and matters of the mind. That sounded so erotic. Anyways, before we get started, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share. If you listen to this on any podcast service, hit the rate button. Would really appreciate it. Rate this podcast to your heart's content. Make sure it's high, or else I won't be happy with you. I'll find you, and we'll have a good time. Consent pending, anyways. Obviously, duh. So yeah, I did a video a while ago based on the Irish birth rates declining. Okay, and in the last decade, it's gone down by 20%. Now, having a little brief check today, it's gone down by about 5%. So now Ireland is at a 25% fertility rate decrease. So less women are having kids, and that was at like 4 point something kids on average in a family, down to like 1 point something now. So it's a drastic change. Furthermore, that fertility rate from 2019 to 2020 has gone down 0.6% more. So that figure has dropped again. And why is this? We all know the reason why. Decisions by women. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. This isn't a piece in women are bad. No. That's not the case. Hear me out. First of all, we have the access to education, right? Access to education means while they're going to learn more, women will be seen in the workforce a lot longer. They can freeze their eggs, they can acquire more currency and disregard males, and also frick the males they want to. And then when they're ready to settle down in that, they can unfreeze the eggs, insemination station, bish bash bosh, happy days, few children, few pints of the lads, grand job. And then we have access to the baby blocker. The baby blocker being a big thing, women having the control over the bodies now. Again, not a bad thing, that's perfectly fine. We have control over all our bodies, which is good. But they have the baby blocker, they can't get pregnant, because we all know what the baby blocker does. And with that being said, is that they can go out, they can have fun, but not face repercussions of having pregnancy, because the choice is there. And that's kind of going to elevate things a lot more, because when you're having fun and that there's no consequences, maybe a few itchy crabs downstairs, the burn, there's nothing going to stop them, because there's no accountability there. And that's just my 2 cents, but like, every person's different. Other people will have the accountability, some won't, and that's just human nature in general. So that being said, with those 2 things really lowering, that kind of brings in the case that kids are going out of fashion. Bearing children is going out of fashion. And funny I say that, because I have this article here, aptly titled, mind you, "Are Children Going Out of Fashion?" And this is from RTE News. It's the local Irish broadcasting network. This is by Mary Corcoran, and she's from Maynooth University. So Maynooth is, just outside of Dublin. It's in Kildare, and it's a college. That much has probably been noticeable so far when it comes to it. But it's an opinion. Low birth rates have created major new challenges for countries around the world. When footballer Mesut Ozil married model Amina Gulşe last year, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan served as a witness at the ceremony. In his speech, Erdogan asked the couple to have at least 4 children. Why? More than 200 years ago, the Reverend Thomas Robert Malthus hypothesized that when population grows exponentially, it outpaces our capacity for food production and depletes our resources. Yeah, supply and demand. That's how it is. Too much demand to meet the supply that's there. Malthus envisioned catastrophe for both humankind and the planet. But although the theory was popular well into the 20th century, recent demographic projections roundly refute this. Pew Research Center analysis of UN data demonstrates a flattening of the world population curve. A statistical phenomenon with which all of us are now familiar. I'm not. So that's not all of us, you fucking clown, you fucking a recent study, the rate of growth of the world's population is declining. Yes, we know why. A recent study published in The Lancet and funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, tinfoil hat, stinky, poopy, projected a global world population of 8.79 billion by 2100. It's in between 2000 and 2200, considerably below previous UN estimates. The key factor driving this demographic transition is behavior of the ladies. Oh yeah, guess who was right? Me, for all the doubters. F you. Slap your face in. There is a long established casual relationship between access to education and control of fertility. Like I said earlier on, ding dong, I was right, you are wrong. The more education a woman has, the more likely it is for her to enter and remain in the workforce and limit the size of her family. But yes, we have to remember that limited size of family. Of course, she can freeze her egg and everything else. But if she gets high on a corporate ladder, the success of her finding a male who's equal or higher than her is going to be very slim. Because like the pyramid, the higher you go, the fewer options you'll have when it comes to high value men. Now I could be wrong with that, but that's just my line of thinking. But we have to remember that women date across and up. Now they will have fun with a bin man or someone who's lesser than them or lesser value than them if they're good looking, but to be with someone who can provide security and protection, they have to be an equal footing to her or higher. That's how it operates. So that's something we have to keep in mind with this. And they can't find a high value man, then it's going to be the artificial insemination station, and they have to raise a child by themselves. Because who are they going to find in their equal line of work? That's the question. And the women claim, where are the good men gone? Well, you just gotta lower your standards a small bit. The higher you go on the ladder, the higher you go into the sky, the more your head's going to be in the clouds. You're going to find no one. If you disagree, that's perfectly fair, but I think that's a sound and logical explanation. This is first identified in the industrialized countries of the North, but has more recently become a global phenomenon. The fertility rate around the world is dropping. In Ireland, the total fertility rate, average number of children born to women in their childbearing years, as recorded by the CSO, or the Central Statistics Office, has dropped quite dramatically from 4.03 in 1965 to 1.82 in 2016. Although there are many more women in the childbearing age band today, they have fewer children. Why? Access to baby blockers and education. But then again, when they're in their party years and then they're on the baby blocker as well, there's going to be no accountability. They're going to have the pig of the litter. And with only simps becoming a lot more prominent, that women and the whole self-validation, the whole validation process through social media like Instagram and Tinder and everything else, is that women's perceived value is going to raise. How they see themselves, they see their own value going to raise. A 5 could see themselves as a 10. Okay? And if they're going to perceive themselves as that high value, they're going to be thinking, wait, I just shouldn't be getting with a 6. I can easily attract a 9. Or they get with a guy who is like a 9 in their eyes. They sleep with them one night and then they might put a 1 or 2 more 9s out of 10s. Men anyways, I'm thinking, well, I shouldn't have to settle for anyone less than 9 because I've been pulling 9s all along. But, that's going to eventually bite them in the bum later on. Because when the actual self-realization comes in that they have to compete with younger girls for men, this is just evolution speaking, guys. Because men tend to go for younger girls, like, the early 20s and that, because of fertility. It's what they're attracted to. It's evolution. It's biological. that they realize they can't compete as much with the younger girls. So they'll eventually have to settle for someone long term, someone who will stay with them. So there's that duality to it as well. But people who perceive themselves and highly egotistical, I have no time for them. I don't. I also don't have time for people who like to promote themselves on Instagram thinking, oh, I like, have a great body, let me show off my body, but let's have a motivational quote underneath. Get out of here, like, you're fooling no one. Just wanting attention. That's it. Really? But that's just a little rant there. Why is the fertility rate important? Because for a population to reproduce itself, the rate must be at least 2.1, and no country across Europe today comes close to that figure. Yeah, we're getting a lot more progressive. I mean, people want children, they're more focused on the careers. But at least not to mention, I think a lot more men are waking up to how things really are when it comes to dealing with people in general, but also women. And that when they're waking up to realizations that, they can be used bad, or, pump and dumped, or like, extradited for their money or whatever, they're not going to be wanting to be near women. They're not. Because, like, they're learning about, like, the false sense of security that marriages can have, and that prenups don't exactly always hold up their weight, and that if they're a man of high value and the woman's vindictive, then obviously she might try and go for more money. If they're married, or not married, and she perceives him as a high value person, she'll be vindictive and could make some allegations. Who knows? Just men are becoming much more aware to how the situation really is in this current day and age when it comes to dating relationships. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be going into a relationship. If you want to get into a relationship, more power to you. Just know how to run it. Know how to don't make the mistakes. And just be totally aware and mindful and present. You can't play the relationship game blind. You have to know what you're doing. But that's just simply it. It's just being aware. Being aware and not being naive to how things operate. That's all it is. And that's what men are choosing to opt out in relationships, because of all this crack that's going on, entitlement and whatnot. But if you find a good girl you want to settle down with, by all means necessary, do that. If you want to date around, but just be honest with your intentions. That's the best way to be. In fact, Ireland has the third highest fertility rate in Europe, just behind France and Sweden. Countries such as Spain and Italy have the lowest rate of 1.3. The dependency ratio is also altering dramatically. This is the number of people in the younger age groups who can support the number of people in the older age categories through taxation and care work. Okay, fair enough. Carrying on. Traditionally, we think of population as a pyramid structure with lots of people on the base and progressively fewer as you move up to the top. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That comes into terms of women finding high value men. They have like the bottom, general populace, and each step up gets higher and higher and higher, but there's very few people who are very high at the top. But the structure has now been inverted, and particularly so in Western societies. Low birth and bite the dust rates are combining to create major new challenges. One solution has been to promote immigration, which helps bolster the number of those in the working age category in receiving country, and also to plug gaps in healthcare, social care, domestic labour, farm work and hospitality. They're doing this in Ireland now, is where seemingly to increase the fertility rate, they're bringing in like 4 million immigrants or something like that. They plan to bring in. So look, I know people want it, but then again, there are people who are unhappy about it because with COVID and everything else, no one wants to risk anything. With me, as long as it doesn't affect my life or my circumstances of living, then look, people can do it. But with COVID, I think everyone, sugar, I said the C word, with the beer bug, I think everyone should be, our leaders in countries, really, I'm not political, should be focusing on getting everyone back on track first, and then worry about that later on. But in context of resurgent nationalism, many countries have become more wary about free movement across borders. Yeah, that is very true. A lot of Irish people are kind of like, not wanting others to come in. But that goes for a lot of other countries, not wanting others from other cultures to come into the country. For instance, post-Brexit, the UK is intent on introducing a more restrictive approach to immigration policy. Yeah, like, look, I can't really say much about this. I'm not political. A more controversial solution, and one at the time with anti-immigration stance, is pursue policies that promote higher birth rates among the native population. What are they going to do? It's like you're going to bang some woman, or you're going to engage in frisky relations with a woman and everyone's going clapping. Yeah, boy, my boy getting the pussy tonight. Boy, yeah, boy. Getting slam dunk and getting a bust nut. Are they going to be clapping as you enter? You're not going to have like the applause when you end up playing. I hate when people do that. History teaches us that pro-natalist policies often have the effect of weaponizing childbearing for political ends. Or how come, like, what's it like with other cultures? I remember reading the book Friskiness at Dawn by Christopher Ryan. Obviously it's the S word, but it's kind of going into like, a lot of cultures out there, like a lot of tribes, don't engage in monogamy. It's like everyone kind of sleeps around with each other, but there's this whole sense of community. Like there's this whole sense of trust in the community. I think it's like they have like certain like shacks in some cultures where like the guys will sleep with the girl, or the guy might have multiple female partners. But like if a woman has a baby by one man, that's like up to the community to raise that child, because so many men engage in relations with her, no one knows what the father is, so they all work together to raise a child in that kind of sense of community. But imagine that in today's society, everyone just having frisky times with the girl, and then no one knows who the father is, so she picks someone who she didn't sleep with to raise a father, and gets the other men to pay child dog crap. Oh no. Oh no. Sugar. Right. After World War I saw millions of lives lost, many European countries developed pro-natalist policies to bolster population. In the 1930s, Stalin reversed liberal birth control and abortion rights in favor of promoting multiple births. Jeez, women are not Pez dispensers, not having babies coming out of the vagina at front and center. The Nationalist Socialist Germany deployed pronatalism as part of its heinous aim to create a racially pure, very nice race in Europe, with German women actively encouraged to leave the workforce and produce children for the fatherland. As again, another Russian accent, not German. Many of us will be well aware of the devastating impacts of the remaining women and children of pro-natalist policies pursued by the Ceausescu regime, I probably butchered that pronunciation, from 1966 to the end of the Berlin Wall in 1989, through a system of sanctions banning the deletion of children, birth control things and salary tax, incentives, extra subsidies, and rations for each newborn child. Okay, so it's just kind of going into history there. Today, Turkey pursues this with what one sociologist has called a reproductive governmentality, with Erdogan advocating for women to have more children. But imagine that happening in other countries, and imagine the Yugo girls going, "You can't tell us what to do, we don't have to have more children, we're more power, blah 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 blah." So I wonder how that's going to go with more progressive ideas, where the thing of, okay, we need you to have more kids to keep the country, to keep that supply and demand going of, the birth rates up. But then again, you're kind of going against the idea that, look, we can control our bodies, you can't tell us what to do. So how are those two policies or two mentalities going to clash? A policy versus an ideology. How is that going to clash together? Will it be good? Will it be bad? Who knows? but I predict it won't go down very well. In Hungary, Viktor Orban pursues a similar agenda and strongly opposes immigration as a solution to population decline. Instead, he advocates a pro-creative solution, which includes such incentives as interest-free loan for families which do not have to be paid back if the couple have 3 children, write-down of mortgages if families have 3 children, with further reductions for each child born thereafter, permanent exemption from paying income tax for women who have 4 children or more, and subsidies for larger family cars. Okay, those are good things. Yeah, those are some nice incentives, but then again, with the You Go Girl movement and womanists movement going around these days, you're going to have to be clashing with that. They're not going to be happy about it. You can hear the pandemonium and the resistance that's going to be brought up to this. In March 2020, the Oziels welcomed a baby to the world, so they might plan to act on Edgerton's advice. But we know from history that pro-natalist policies, especially those aggressively policed by the state, rarely produce the desired impact. Rather, their unintended consequences produce both a deterioration in the health of women and diminution in their reproductive rights. And that sums it up perfectly. Ideology versus policy. It's not going to end well. I know. That was the views of the author, not RTE. Just get that clear. So what are the takeaways from this video? First of all, birth rates going down to the choice of women. There's no men in a role to this for blaming women like that. Now obviously if the men create birth control and everything else, then okay, I can see, but with more rights is coming the more responsibility that women have to work. They're choosing to work. It's their decision. They're taking the baby blocker. It is their decision. And when you're stripping their rights away from them, there's going to be upheaval. So realistically, we're fucked. And I'm just joking there. So the main thing is like, look, birth rates are declining, but is it going to be a good thing, or are we going to realize that it's too late to salvage what we have? Who knows? But I hope this is interesting. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, share. As I said, take care, God bless, stay safe, and be better.